is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I am doing a solo show today. So what that means is we're going to be doing our lane analysis here. We're doing reefer freight today. Then we're going to be breaking down some industry headlines. As always, all the links to the articles that we talk about are going to be uploaded into the show notes. So you guys can, as always, do your own research on it, right? Because this is just literally my opinion on stuff and kind of how I see it from 20 years of doing this job. But on top of that, today is Wednesday. That's Freight Coach Newsletter Day. We only drop that once a week, all right? But if you want to get in on it, I need you to go to thefreightcoach.com to register for it. It'll auto-prompt you on there. That's just because I never liked getting auto-added to a bunch of newsletters that I just automatically delete. So I just want people to want to receive it. And again, we just talk about freight in there, you guys. Talk about lanes, rates, diesel prices, all of that stuff. So check it out, you guys, freightcoach.com. But today's episode's kind of a special one, you guys. I didn't even realize this. I kind of get into the zone so much that I didn't even realize that today is episode 1400. Yeah, that's a lot. That is, we're coming up on 6 years here in a couple of months of doing this podcast. And we switched over to a daily live show probably like 4 years ago at this point. And then we've just slowly built this out as we go. We've structured it more. We've tried to keep it more on point with what is going on in the industry and less about clickbait headlines and everything else, and just trying to drive views and stuff. And, you know, it's wild to sit back and think like we've done. This is episode 1400. And, you know, I had Ingrid Brown on yesterday, and she was like the fourth person on this episode. She was like episode 4 or 5. Like legitimately, it's been almost 6 years since she was on the phone or on the call. And it's just wild to me to look back on this, right? And most importantly, what's wild is you guys continue to show up every single week, and you know the audience continues to grow, social media continues to grow, and that just gives me more and more drive to continue to do this, right? Because there's clearly a need and a want for more information to come down from people who are actually doing the job. And that is like the main premise of this show is I just want people on here who love freight, who are going to be a part of this industry no matter what goes on out there, and aren't just looking to cash in. Again, like I'm a capitalist, do you at the end of the day, but like I like talking to people who've been in this industry for a long time, who love this industry and plan on being in this industry for a long time. Because like I had mentioned, like my family's been in trucking since like the 1930s when my family immigrated here from Germany. And I hope my family's in this industry for the next 100 years in whatever capacity that looks like, right? So it's like I just feel like it's a duty of mine to come on here and at least give my opinion on stuff, but know that it's just coming from people who actually do the work and who are actually building real companies in this industry. Because I feel like there's just such a different perspective that comes into that. But speaking of perspectives on things, the market is all over the place right now, according to a lot of the posts that I see out there on social media. And we're going to dive into our segment This Week in Freight, powered by DAT. And again, if you guys want any of your lanes analyzed on this show, I need you to email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. All of these lanes are 100% viewer submitted. Again, I just want to help you guys understand what I look for when I'm cold calling shippers, when I'm trying to price freight out over, you know, a 12-month period, especially in times of potential volatility. But, you know, that's what we're here to talk about today. In today's lane that we are going to break down, you guys, is Vineland, New Jersey reefer to Tracy, California. And this lane is it's wild to me because it when you move east to west, and this goes back in the day when I was moving food and bev, it's wild the contrast that you can see out there, because if you do the inverse of this, it's like a double the price that you get. I don't know what it is about the east to west lane that is always significantly less than west to east. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. But this lane in particular here, there has been like a pretty decent price increase over these last couple of months. Now, when I'm looking at this, if I look at the last year from February through November and even into early December, it was essentially the exact same price, give or take about $200 overall. So the lane performed very stable last year overall. And again, there's a lot of capacity for lanes like this. It's great mileage, 3,000 miles. It's a great, 5-6 day transit, depending on everything you see out there. But I am noticing here that this price increase comes January and February, which are historically the slower months inside of the industry. Volumes are down historically on this, but the rates are rising on this. Now, why is this a point of interest to me? Well, I can go back and see that in January and February, there was some snowstorms up in the Northeast in particular that may have caused this rate to spike and then stabilize at a higher rate. Now, this is also could be in due part to, carriers going out of business and stuff like that. But this is going to be a lane to watch. Okay. And I say that because if we go into the last 7 days, it's still holding firm at that 4,500 mark on DAT. So again, this is one of those lanes that it might not go down, right? Like we'll probably have to check in back in 30 days. But I also look at it is this is a power lane, you guys. And if this lane is holding firm at this, like the snowstorms didn't last all of January and all of February, right? There was a couple of weeks that it caused rates to increase, but it shows that they increased and they stabilized at that increased price. So if I was moving cross-country reefer freight, obviously, you guys, there's 3 different pricing classifications that come into refrigerated freight, in my opinion. You got your frozen stuff, you got your temperature controlled, and then you got your fresh. So you got your -10, your 38 to 42 degrees, and then you got your 55 to 60 degrees. And I know that there's some other stuff that goes in there, but that's just generally, I look at it as like a 3 different classification of pricing when I go in out there. But this lane has seen a price increase, and I wouldn't be surprised if something like this continues to stabilize, and that is the new floor on this lane. I would pay attention to this though, because again, it's at that 60-day mark. I like 90 days. Okay. When I'm looking at lanes over the course of a rate increase or decrease, I like to look at it from a 90-day cycle, because I feel like there's enough freight, there's enough weather events, there's enough things that happen during that time frame to show that, hey, this is the new price on this lane. So if I was going into this one, I wouldn't go in for a price increase probably just yet, depending on what you're quoting on this freight to begin with. But I would pay attention to this one, and if it continues throughout the month of March, I would safely say that this lane has flipped. Capacity and rates clearly capacity's down, rates are up on this one. And that would be one that I would want to pay attention to throughout the entire month of March, because again, my barometer is 90 days and I see a January and a February where the rate has increased and stabilized, and early March here, it's holding firm at that. So if this continues throughout the month of March, moving forward, if you're spot market truck in hand, pricing your customers, I would want to talk to multiple carriers, because one thing that I think people can kind of get caught in is they get one truck that quotes them whatever price below market. They could be sitting for a couple of days. By the time your customer awards you that lane, that truck's already booked and gone, and it wasn't an actual option. And then you're stuck there with a below market rate, and you're potentially losing money on this freight. And again, honor your word, do what you got to do to service the accounts. But if I was new on this lane, I would want to get multiple trucks that I'm talking to here. I would want to get multiple prices, see where everybody's at before I would go out and commit to any pricing on it. And then again, if it's a spot market one, I would want to hold off on getting anything long-term contract until probably the end of March. And if it stabilized at that for 3 straight months, that 90-day mark, then from there, I would work on locking in a more of a consistent contracted rate. So that lane, you guys, was Vineland, New Jersey to Tracy, California. Reefer. Again, these are all 100% viewers submitted, you guys. So if you want your lane broken down on this show, I need you to email podcast@thefreightcoach.com. Pickup city, delivery city, trailer type. That is all I need. If you want to round up to the nearest big city so you can throw me off your trail, go right ahead and do that, you guys. It doesn't change my opinion because regionally based pricing is pretty much how I operate and have always operated my book of business. But again, if you want to get in on it, you guys do it 3 days a week. We do drive-in, reefer, and flatbed out there. But speaking of all that fun stuff, let's break down some industry headlines here. There has been it's just a constant onslaught of stuff, you guys. So I don't even want to sit here and act surprised in this moment. Obviously, today, you guys, on this in DC, the Supreme Court is hearing from C.H. Robinson. There's not going to be any ruling or anything today, but I got Matt Leffler coming on the show on Friday to kind of break down whatever information they release, so you guys can hear it from an actual attorney instead of a bunch of Twitter warriors who are putting their opinion out there that don't actually know. So that is definitely a case that could potentially change the landscape of the industry as a whole. But let's dive in here to the first article, and that is going to be from ttnews.com. My favorite thing is kind of creeping its way back into the news. Title of this article: Labor Department plans to rescind Independent Contractor Rule. The Department of Labor has fundamentally rewritten the playbook for the owner-operator model, moving away from the previous administration's core factors approach, which prioritized control and opportunity for profit. The new rule implements a totality of the circumstances framework. This isn't just a slight adjustment, it's a seismic shift out there. The Department of Labor now weighs 6 factors equally to determine if a worker is truly an independent contractor or an employee. For the trucking industry, the most dangerous element is the integral part factor. The Department of Labor argues that if a driver is performing, and my screen just went out, hold on, the primary function of the business are that they are integral and should likely be classified as an employee. This creates a massive liability loop for carriers and brokerages. If you are reclassified, you aren't just looking at a fine, you are looking at years of back taxes, unpaid overtime, and the potential collapse of the 1099 model that much of the industry is built on. So if we're looking at this here, I'm sorry, guys, my screen is all over the place here. I'm trying to find these 6 factors and laying them all out here. I hope this article listed them. I'm not a tech guy, and I'm having an issue with my screen today. So let's see here. All right. The Department of Labor, the pros rule would apply an economic reality test to decide if the worker is in my screen just, okay. The reality of doing anything in the real world, you guys, stuff doesn't work sometimes. Is an independent contractor employee. Identify and explain the core factors to determine if a worker economically relies on an employer for work, business. Okay. So I look at this one as, and again, we were talking about this back in 2023 and 2024 in the Biden administration with AB 5 and everything else. And essentially they were trying to kill the independent contractor model that's out there. But again, it's like, there are those unique circumstances where it's like you own your own stuff and they're helping you find freight, but are they telling you that you have to be, essentially clocking in, clocking out, stuff like that? And I look at this as, the independent contractor is such a, it's such an integral part of the entire entrepreneurship journey, and there's a lot of individuals, especially in trucking, that go out on their own. They're owner operators. They're leased on to a company. I mean, that's what my dad did for the majority of it is he was a lease on owner operator. He pulled their trailers and essentially they found him the freight and everything. And I think that this could legitimately change things, right? Because it's I think that independent, but again, that first, I think you have to go at it with that first right of refusal. Like, can you say no to any of the freight that you're getting? And I think like this is where, again, I'm not an attorney. If you need to talk to an attorney, talk to an attorney. But I think this is like where brokers and carriers are, it kind of cleans up a little bit of this in the sense of like, as a broker, you can't tell a carrier to do anything essentially, right? Like when they have that stuff, i.e., look at this Supreme Court case and everything else that comes along with it. But I look at like, being able to clearly prove that there aren't your employee, so if you're a lease-on owner operator, or if you're a broker and you're hiring an independent contractor, i.e. a trucking company to do that job, you're going to have to keep like very clean records here based on what I'm seeing that shows that you are not telling them what to do, right? Like, which I would advise nobody does anyways. But, I look at it, where, another thing from the owner operator model is like the investment versus the expense portion of this article, where it's like the Department of Labor now looks at whether the worker's investment, i.e. owning your truck, is capital in nature, or is that just an expense required to do the job? And that could potentially change, our tax structure, which is due next month. So just earmark that to not the U.S. government at this point. And then also the control conflict that goes on in 2026. Shippers require macro point. Give me just a second here, you guys. Okay, there we go. Excuse me. Shippers require tracking. And then if a carrier forces an independent contractor to use them, does that count as employer control under the new rule? That's one thing that I would also watch if I was a shipper out there. If you're requiring your providers to have certain things, are you exerting control over their operation? Therefore, are you liable if something happens? I think that's going to be interesting. And that's something that attorneys are going to probably argue ad nauseum in the court system here. And then, I think from like a broker's perspective is, if you're an independent agent, i.e., like, because that's what we are, right? Like we're a freight agent with SPI Logistics. They're our partners in this. And I think that that's one of those things that I think that might, again, I don't want it to change the independent contractor model, I guess, to kind of summarize a lot of this stuff. And I don't want it to change the independent contractor model in the sense of like, this is just a way, this is like a stepping stone of so many people to get out there and build their own business, right? And I look at it from the driver's perspective. A lot of individuals go out there, maybe all they can do is afford a truck, and then they can lease on and become a leased-on owner-operator and haul trailers and get that business before they can go up and build that capital. And same thing on the brokerage side, right? Like if you're an independent freight agent that's out there, depending on what your long-term vision is, becoming an independent agent is a great stepping stone for you to get out there, see if like the entrepreneurship lifestyle is really for you, and then you can jump forward and then, go out and, get your own authority, maybe acquire a brokerage or a trucking company, whatever that looks like. So it's like, I don't want to see the federal government stop anybody from becoming a entrepreneur in the long run. I don't want to see that happen. And I don't want the federal government to overstep their boundaries, but I do feel like they needed to do what they did in the sense of like clean up what the Biden administration had put in place with AB5 and everything else. So sorry, guys, I'm actually moving freight. We're picking up here. It's flatbed season. I'm monitoring my emails and I'm trying to multitask right now. But that article, you guys, was from ttnews.com. Check that out, especially if you're employing independent contractors of any sort. This is one you are going to want to follow as a whole, or even if you have 1099 employees out there, you guys, you're going to want to follow this one. Next article we are going to break down is from freightwaves.com. And this article talks about the FMCSA, Derek Bars. He was at the TCA, Truckload Carriers Association convention. And it goes on to say that he delivered what many are calling a proactive manifesto. Bars defended the agency's recent aggressive stance, emphasizing that the days of a reactive FMCSA are over. The agency is no longer waiting for high-profile crash to trigger an investigation. They are moving into a proactive audit model. Bars highlighted that the FMCSA is leveraging massive data sets, including ELDs, hops, including ELD. Okay, I don't know what they mean by that. Hops, roadside inspection trends, and even administrative data like business address registrations to find high-risk carriers before an incident occurs. He specifically targeted chameleon carriers and those exploited administrative fraud to hide poor safety records. His message was clear that the FMCSA is using a digital footprint of every carrier to build a safety profile that is updated in real time, not once every 3 years. Again, I think what I was talking about with Ingrid yesterday on the show as well here, I think it's very important because I think they have identified that what was going on in the past has led to where we are today. And I think that they are taking the right steps forward here. I think that they have identified some massive gaps in their operation and they are proactively working to clean this up. And this, from my perspective, is probably the most hands-on administration I have personally that I've been paying attention to here. And I think that this is one of those things that it needs to be done. And the fact that they're taking this approach and there's just no BS anymore, right? They're done playing partisan politics. They are setting standards and cleaning it up. And we've always talked about in this show, you guys, standards are a good thing. Standards are a very good thing. We want a system in place that rewards the providers that are doing the right thing. And that's what we need to focus in on. We want that because that's going to, if you're out there and you're operating ethically and everything else, you're above board on all of your stuff, you got nothing to worry about. Now, like we've talked about in the past, there might be an annoyance period, we can call it, where you're going to have to essentially prove the validity of your business in the interim. But I think long-term, that is going to weed out a lot of the bad actors that have been able to freely operate in this industry. Now, I want to be clear. I don't think it is as bad as social media wants to make it out to be overall. I know a lot of top-notch carriers that are out there that have work visas that are non-domiciled CDLs that are doing the right thing. And I think that there has to be a fine line drawn in the sand between we are going after carriers who are illegally operating in any capacity and not muddy the waters and make it sound like we're going to go after foreign-born drivers and stuff like that because they're on a work visa. I think that you have to clear that up. That would be like my big advice to the FMCSA and the DOT. I know they listen to this show. I would make it a very clear message out there as a whole. Because I've always stated, I think if you're arguing the validity of a work visa, that is a completely separate argument compared to crash data with non-domiciled CDL drivers, because it's not there. They've never actually reported crashes in regards to the classification of their CDL, i.e. American-born or non-domiciled work visa. They don't have that to the best of my knowledge. So it's like when we're going in with this stuff, I like the hard line in the sand that they are taking. I love the fact that they are pushing up and they are really making sure that everything, like you're above board on all of your stuff. And I think that from our perspective, that's what needs to be done, because that will reward. And I've told everybody I know who owns trucks in this industry that has been on this show in the past couple of years, I've all told them the exact same thing here recently, that I don't know when this is going to happen, but I think the carriers who operate above board, who are doing everything the right way that the FMCSA is currently dropping the hammer on a lot of this stuff, you guys, I think that they are about to embark upon a golden age in trucking that is going to make COVID look like pennies compared to what could happen here. Because I think that is what the ultimate goal is how do we reward people who are doing it the right way? And like I've always said, I don't want any handouts. at all in business. I just want an equal playing field. I want an equal playing field to compete with everybody in the market with my product and services out there. And I feel like that's what a lot of the driver communities want as well. They don't want anybody else to be able to operate. I don't think they want anybody else to be able to operate under the board, cut corners, and everything else. I truly feel this way. Now, when this happens, I don't know. I can't sit here and say within the next 12 months or anything like that. But I feel like the way that the current administration is going through the like all of the paperwork, like they're being very bold right now. They are essentially throwing anything, politically incorrect, we'll call it, out the window. They're dropping the hammer. They're trying to clean this stuff up, which I think is a very good thing. I truly do. I think it'll be a while. And this is one thing, and we're going to wrap up with this. This is one thing I want you guys to understand. Just because social media gets us stuff with instant results, a lot of the stuff that's coming down the pipeline right now in regards to the reindustrialization of the United States, in regards to what the FMCSA and the DOT is doing, this is going to take a few years to probably actually show its real positive effects of this. It takes a long time. You got to remember, you guys, the federal government's the largest employer in American history, which that's a conversation for a different day. But that article, you guys, was from freightwaves.com, and it was talking about Derek Barr's conversation at the TCA conference out in Orlando, Florida, which I think that in the article, again, if you guys want to click on the link to that article, I think that they actually might show the speech in there, and I would definitely check that out, you guys. Again, stay on top of this stuff and stay educated because your business depends on it at the end of the day. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I got freight to move. I got to jump back in. I got to get some loads covered. I got to get some loads quoted because your boy actually does the job he talks about. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything, ayy.